The iPhone X has just been announced this week, and the iPhone X is the biggest change ever since the original iPhone back in 2007. So let's take a look at how the iPhone X compares to the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. So why the Note 8? Well, the Note 8 is coming out pretty soon in most regions, and it's also Samsung's flagship smartphone for 2017. Now, I'll also have a video comparing the iPhone X with the Samsung Galaxy S8, since the S8 is a smaller device, 5.5 inches, 5.8 inches on both. But yeah, in this video, iPhone X versus Samsung Galaxy Note 8, everything you need to know extremely in depth. So grab some snacks and enjoy. Okay, so starting off with number one, we have the design. So design-wise, these two phones are pretty similar, yet so different. So what do they have in common? Well, both of them come with an almost bezel-less design. The iPhone X, it comes with only the top sensor bar, but other than that, you actually have almost no bezels on this thing. The Note 8, however, it comes with some very small top and bottom bezels, and then the sides are actually curved, which make them look even more immersive than on the iPhone X. Now, both of them come with a glass back, so the iPhone X and the Note 8. However, Apple says that the glass back on the iPhone is the most durable glass in any smartphone, which is really hard to believe. So I'm really curious to see how this will actually stand, the drop tests and so on in real life. I won't be doing those, but still I'll be curious to see how this will fare. However, the biggest difference between these two is the size. So the Note 8 is just massive when compared to the iPhone X. So size-wise, the iPhone X comes in at 7.7mm thick, 143.6mm tall, and a width of about 71mm. And it weighs about 174 grams. Now the Note 8, on the other hand, it comes in at 8.6mm thick and 162.5mm tall, and a width of 74.8mm. So yes, the Note 8 is taller and thicker and wider than the iPhone. So if you thought that a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, for example, was a large phone, the Note 8 is even larger. And if you care about one-hand usability, so if you care about using your phone with just one hand, well, the iPhone is a bit more manageable. But keep in mind that the iPhone X still comes with a 5.8 inches display. So if you want to get from top to bottom, you still need some fairly large hands, or you just need to, do this and try and move your hand and touch every corner. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult, and on the Note 8 it's going to be even more difficult. Okay, now moving on to the display. When it comes to the size, yes, the Note 8 comes with a massive 6.3 inches display, a bit larger than the one on the S8 Plus, which was 6.2 inches. Now the iPhone X, on the other hand, it comes with a 5.8 inches display, which is the same size as the Samsung Galaxy S8. By the way, and actually larger than the iPhone 8 and even the iPhone 8 Plus, both of which come with 4.7 and 5.5 inches. Now, when it comes to the actual resolution, the Note 8 comes in at 2960 by 1440 resolution, which is actually the same resolution as on the S8 Plus or the S8, and this one actually translates to a PPI of 521, which is pretty good. Now, the iPhone X, on the other hand, this one comes with a resolution of 2436 by 1125. Which would actually translate to a PPI of 458 actually. So it's sharper and clearer, the Note 8, than the iPhone. And Apple calls the iPhone's display a Super Retina display. But yes, the Note 8 displays is sharper and clearer and larger. Now, both of these phones come with an OLED display. And by the way, both of these phones actually support HDR. And the iPhone X, however, supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. So the Note 8 doesn't support Dolby Vision. Now, this isn't because the Note 8 is weak or anything. It's simply because Samsung has their own HDR standard. Same thing applies to Samsung TVs. Samsung TVs, they don't support Dolby Vision. LG TVs, for example, they do. But a pretty big difference when it comes to the actual display is the display brightness. So we have 625 nits on the iPhone X versus 1200 nits on the Note 8, at least according to DisplayMate. So pretty big difference between the two. Basically, the Note 8 is twice as bright as the iPhone X, meaning that outdoor visibility is much better, and also the colors are going to be brighter and more vibrant at least brighter, and yeah, even more vibrant. If you increase the brightness, you also get more vibrancy on the Note 8. So the iPhone 10 does come with a pretty unique feature. That's a True Tone display, which automatically adjusts the color temperature based on the lighting conditions. So this is useful, it's cool, it's not really groundbreaking. A 120 Hertz ProMotion panel like on the iPad Pros, that would have been really useful. This was rumored to be in the iPhone 10, and unfortunately wasn't included, but maybe next year. So overall, the Note 8 has a larger, a sharper, and also a twice as bright display as the iPhone 10, but the iPhone 10 supports Dolby Vision. So yeah, the Note 8 has a better display. Okay, now when it comes to the specs, the iPhone 10 comes with the brand new Apple A11 Bionic processor, which is pretty powerful, and the Note 8 comes with the Exynos 8895 for the international market, and then the Snapdragon 835 in US and China. Now, all you need to know here is that both of these phones are really, really fast. But the iPhone 10 is just, I don't know, light years ahead. The iPhone 10 is a powerhouse, and I'm not just making things up. The Exynos 8895, for example, scores 1900 in the single core in Geekbench 4, and about 6300 for the multi-core. And the Apple A11 chip, by the way, scores 4141 for the single core, which is more than double, which is just crazy, and about 10,000 for the multi-core, which again is crazy. Just to give you an idea of how powerful this thing is, it's more powerful than the 13-inch MacBook Pro that Apple sells, 2017 one, and it's very, very close to the 2017 15-inch top-of-the-line MacBook Pro with an i7 7920HQ Kaby Lake processor. Now, this is the most powerful processor that you can get in a laptop. This is the most powerful mobile processor that Intel currently sells. And it's really, really close in performance to the Apple A11 chip inside the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 8. So if you care about music production, video production, gaming, everything is going to be buttery smooth for the iPhone 10. It's going to be like nothing. But I'm guessing that you don't really care about music production or video production, at least not on your phone. But if you do, or if you care about gaming, the iPhone 10 is a much, much better choice. Now, when it comes to the amount of RAM, the iPhone 10 comes with 3 GB of RAM, and the Note 8 comes with 6 GB of RAM, so double the amount. Now, iOS has always had really, really good RAM management. By the way, check out my ultimate speed test between the iPhone 7, 6S, which come with 2 GB of RAM, versus the Samsung Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, and S7 Edge, which come with 4 GB of RAM. And you will see how big of a difference there is. Then moving on to the cameras, both phones come with dual camera modules on the back, and both of them give you 2x optical zoom. And speaking of the actual camera specs, we have 12 megapixel sensors on both f1.8 and f2.4 aperture on the iPhone 10, and f1.7 and f2.4 on the Note 8 on the back-facing cameras. And then both phones have optical image stabilization on both the camera modules on the back. Now, the iPhone 10 does come with an improved and larger sensor, and according to Apple, it actually lets 83% actually more light in than the iPhone 7 did. But obviously we'll have to test this out and see if that's actually true. Now, probably the biggest difference between these two phones in terms of the camera is when it comes to video. So the iPhone 10 can actually do 4K video at 60 frames per second, which is actually, this is the world's first phone that can do this. This is huge. Now, the Note 8 can do 4K 30, which is also pretty good. Of course, that bitrate, in the end, bitrate is what matters when it comes to quality. And I don't really have any details when it comes to the actual bitrate on the iPhone 10. So yeah, stay tuned for that in a future video. If you want to see a really ultimate in-depth camera comparison, feel free to subscribe if you want to see that. And then in terms of slow motion, we also have some improvements on the iPhone 10. So the Note 8 can do 720p at 240 frames per second, and the iPhone 10 can do 1080p at 240. So we get twice better quality in slow motion on the iPhone 10. Now, speaking of quality, let's talk about front-facing camera. So resolution-wise, we have 8 megapixels on the Note 8, we have an f1.7 aperture on the Note 8, and it can do Quad HD video in up to 30 frames per second. Now the iPhone 10, however, it has the same front-facing camera as the iPhone 7. So 7 megapixels, f2.2 aperture, 1080p video, 30 frames per second. But then the iPhone 10's front-facing camera, it can take portrait mode selfies. So with that, with that really nice depth effect that the Note 8 can only do with the back-facing camera. So in the end, the Note 8 has a much better front-facing camera. also with a much wider field of view. But the iPhone X has a better back-facing camera and overall more camera features. You get features such as portrait lighting, you get improved depth mapping, and so many more. But then the Note 8 has a fully manual mode for the camera, which is really, really useful. Both phones are really good. It comes to whether you prefer more flexibility or more features. Now, when it comes to the features, there is a lot of features on both of these phones. These phones are packed with features. So I'm not going to cover every single feature that both of these phones have. I'm only going to cover the differences. So for example, the Note 8 comes with microSD card support, which the iPhone X doesn't, and it can support up to 256 of extra storage. Then the Note 8 also comes with a headphone jack, which is really, really useful. I mean, you get an adapter with the iPhone X in the box, but you do have to carry that around with you. Then the Note 8 also comes with its most unique feature, which is the S Pen. So the S Pen is a pretty unique feature, a pretty defining feature, I would say, of the Note lineup. So with this stylus, it's a stylus, you can take notes, you can create GIFs, you can annotate pictures, and so much more. Now the thing is that it works really, really well with Samsung apps. However, if you're the kind of person that uses Google apps, like for example Google Keep instead of Samsung Notes, well, you're out of luck. So S Pen really useful, but only if you use Samsung apps. Then we also have VR support on the Note 8 with the Gear VR. Apple doesn't actually sell any first-party VR, which is pretty disappointing. Then you also have USB-C, a USB-C port on the Note 8. The iPhone X doesn't have USB-C; it's still Lightning port, so that's a pretty big thing. Then water resistance is also better on the Note 8. We have at least the rating. So we have IP68 on the Note 8 and IP67 on the iPhone, even though quite a few tests have showed that the iPhone's water resistance is better actually than the Note and the S8 one, even though the rating is actually lower. Then we also have a heart rate and an oxygen level meter on the back. We have an iris scanner, and we also have an always on display, which we don't have on the iPhone X. Now, the iPhone X, on the other hand, it comes with dual stereo speakers, which are really, really good, much better than the S8 or the Note 8 one. Then we also have Face ID. So we have depth sensors on the front with advanced facial recognition. And you use this for Apple Pay, you use this for Face Unlock, and you also use this for something called Animojis. So this is a new feature. This is called Animated, comes from animated emojis. And they're basically emojis that you can control with your facial expressions. They're pretty cool, by the way. And then you also get tap to wake, which you don't have on the Note 8, and also 3D touch. So this is a pressure sensitive display. The Note 8 kind of has this, but it's only in the home button area instead of the full entire display like you have on the iPhone. Now, obviously I haven't actually mentioned anything about the camera features, the increased performance on the iPhone, all the display differences, the fact that the Note 8 has a higher brightness and so on, but that's because I've already mentioned these before. So these were all the new features and the differences between these two. Now moving on to the battery. Which phone has a better battery? Well, that's the Note 8. So the Note 8 wins here by a mile, and that's because it comes with a much larger battery. So 3300 on the Note 8 versus about 2700 on the iPhone X. Now, iOS does have some really good optimization when it comes to energy usage, which might help battery life a bit. But overall, the Note 8 is better when it comes to battery life. And also one thing to point out here is that since the Note 8 comes with a USB-C port, you can charge it from pretty much any device with a USB-C port. So, even a device such as a MacBook. If you have a MacBook, you can charge a Note 8 directly from the MacBook. But if you have a MacBook and an iPhone X, which are both made by Apple, then you should probably get a Note 8 because it works better with Apple devices. Seriously. No, I'm just joking. But at some point, I do see Apple finally switching to USB-C. Obviously, they will lose a lot of money. Different video on that topic. But yeah, in terms of storage options, the Note 8 comes with 64 gigabytes as the baseline model. And then you can also get it in 128 and 256. But most stores that I've seen only have it in 64. So you could say that 64 is kind of like the baseline model. Now, on top of this, you can extend the storage with the microSD card to up to 256 extra gigabytes, which is pretty awesome, pretty nice to have. The iPhone X, however, comes in 64 and 256. However, when it comes to the actual storage speed, from everything we've seen right now, it seems that the iPhone X is faster when it comes to the storage speed. So 10 to 15% faster than the iPhone 7, which was already faster than the Note 8 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. But when you consider buying an SD card, by the way, keep this in mind. The storage, the speed is much slower than the internal storage. So SD card, even though you get 256 extra storage, it's about 10 times, if not more, slower than the internal storage. So if you can, always opt for the highest capacity storage that you can afford. Obviously, the micro SD card being, the bonus storage, so to say, rather than your main focus. Now, moving on to the actual price. Both of these phones are really expensive. So the Note 8 starts at $960 in the US or £870 in the UK. And that's for the baseline 64GB model. The iPhone X, however, starts at $1,000 or £1,000 because, 1-to-1 conversion ratio, Apple really likes this. So yeah, £1,000, $1,000 for the baseline 64GB model, but no possibility to expand this even further with a micro SD card if needed. Okay, so in the end, which one should you get? Which one is better? Well, honestly, the Note 8 does offer more features, a larger display, you also get a brighter display, and you also get, some really useful features, maybe, such as the S Pen. Now, the iPhone X, on the other hand, it offers better performance, much better performance actually, a better back-facing camera, a much smaller form factor, and a much more, compact form factor, but also at a much higher price. So personally, I would advise you to do this. If you prefer using Apple software, go with the iPhone X, if you can afford it. If not, wait until next year when both the iPhones should have an OLED display and they both should be cheaper than the iPhone X. And if you really need a new Samsung phone, don't get a Note 8. Just wait a few more months for the Samsung Galaxy S9, which is going to launch early next year. However, if you do need that S Pen, and if you use it a lot, which by the way, again, only works best with Samsung apps, which most of them don't have a desktop version, by the way. If that's the case, then yes, you can get a Note 8, because the Note 9 is only going to launch in most likely summer 2018. But yeah, this was it. This was the ultimate in-depth comparison. I wanted to cover a lot of stuff in this video. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more in-depth comparisons and in-depth videos like this one.